Today on This Week in Startups, Phil Libin, the founder of Evernote, is on the program. We'll solve your startup problems on another segment of Ask Jason. And Kathy Choi is going to bring us the news, all that and more, including Tyler Crowley, on This Week in Startups.
That's what it's all about, man. They said money is the root of all evil, but funny how it feeds my people. We ain't gonna live like equals until we get the money, spend the money and defeat you. Yeah, money is the root of all evil. What? Funny how it feeds my people. Yeah, we ain't gonna live like equals until we get the money, spend the money and defeat you.
Hello, everybody. Hello, and welcome to another episode of This Week in Startups. It's episode
101.
101. We're just going to cruise right past that 100. What a great guest last week we had. And interestingly enough, Lior is on the program. And then what happens? The Wall Street Journal, New York Times, back-to-back stories Sunday and Monday about Google sending traffic to itself and the whole controversy.
Oh, yeah, right.
And meanwhile, we got Google to answer it right on the program there on Friday. Obviously, they're trying to be balanced in how they send traffic back and forth.
I think Bing is pushing that issue more than Google is.
Right, but it doesn't matter as much when Bing only has 10% or something.
That's the dynamic, though, is that now that Bing can do that, ironically, that Microsoft...
Google has to.
And from what I understand, Microsoft is actually like rubbing their hands watching Google get into this like too powerful phase of their...
Of course. Well, I mean, Microsoft got beaten down with the EU
so now
fines and everything. It's like, nobody cares about us anymore. Everybody's going to beat up Facebook or Google. Yeah, with great power
they're forcing Google to put in all this innovative stuff because Bing's starting to put
We all know that it is better to just get, I mean, half the time you're going to Yelp, it's for the address of the phone number. And the other half, it's for the reviews.
Photo, maybe.
Photo and reviews. Well, that means with the one result, or with Hotpot, or with any other service, they're going to give you half the traffic is going to wind up on your page. So does that mean people search less, or does it mean people just absorb that knowledge quicker and then go on and do another search? Nobody knows the answer to that question. So, and what's also happening is the internet's still growing and usage is still growing because more screens are coming online. So even if Google starts siphoning some of the traffic, there's enough growth that Yelp can't complain because net, even if Google siphons some traffic, they're siphoning some of the new traffic. So the existing traffic is going.
Plus, there's the international aspect of it as opposed to the Microsoft had to deal with like distribution in America, where the web is
a true monopoly.
Well, I'm just the point being that the web isn't based by country per se, like distribution of copies of disks.
In fairness, Microsoft did ship their products all over the globe.
True.
Didn't get paid in China. Got stolen.
No, but they didn't have to They could leave the browser on the desktop when it was sent into Europe or whatever. Where in the U.S. they couldn't. And
it's the same but different. As somebody famously said when we were kids, it's the same but different, and that became one of the taglines when we were growing up. If we ever wanted to say like, my God, that was a stupid statement, we'd say, oh, it's the same but different. And one thing that is the same, week after week, day after day, hour after hour, minute after minute, second after second, SendGrid is sending your transactional emails. No mistakes. It gets into your inbox. These are the critical emails you need. Account registration, password reset notifications, purchase receipts, shipping notifications, friend and follow requests. These are the lifeblood of any startups. Even the big ones like Foursquare use them, FormSpring, Hootsuite, SlideShare. I mean, these are companies that have tens of millions of users. They could easily, with the funding they have, do it themselves. But why don't they do it themselves is what you have to ask yourself. It's because SendGrid does it better. That's their sole focus, is making sure that these transactional emails get through. And it is a constantly changing battle. As you know, when your stuff gets caught in spam filters all the time, you need to have somebody who's thinking about that 24/7. Even big companies, like Foursquare doesn't want to put 5 employees on email delivery, but SendGrid's probably got 50. That's why it's so great. Tyler uses it.
And they do the volume.
And they do the volume. So, and they also have that relationship. So they know the person at Hotmail. They know the person at AOL. They can talk to them and say, hey, we got our thing. It's not getting through. Hey, let's get something done. Go on, let's fix this, They're hiring web application engineers and back-end engineers and sales and marketing. You can always tell when a company's doing good when they have like all these open positions. I mean, they're basically hiring everybody. So all the Yahoo people got laid off today. You're going to send an email right over to SendGrid.
You also know you got something good when I heard about them from Sean from Cocodot.
Sean from Cocodot, who's an Invite company.
Yes.
Sean from Cocodot, which was at TechCrunch 50 the second year.
Yes.
Sean uses SendGrid, and his is an Evite killer.
Right. So when I was asking him,
what's the gold standard?
I was like, what do you guys use?
Yeah.
Because it must be good because you're sending out. He's like, oh, SendGrid. And then my point in saying this is he didn't even deliberate. He wasn't like, oh yeah, use them, maybe not them, maybe this guy, try this. You know how it is, like, well,
sure.
I'm looking for this service. Oh, well, you try this guy, and then he was just like, no, just
game
stop.
over.
Yeah, game over.
Game over. Period.
One stop.
SendGrid. Period. If you're going to go try it, use the coupon code IWatchTwist. IWatch TWIST, and you will get 3 months of the basic plan for free. And this can be applied to a new or an existing account. That's how good they're doing. So thank you to @SendGrid. Look at their beautiful logo over there. Thank you to SendGrid for sponsoring independent media. Where else are you going to see all these incredible interviews twice a week? But on This Week in Startups, it just doesn't exist anywhere else in media. Today on the program, we have Phil Libin, who is the founder of Evernote. You guys know Evernote because it's one of the most popular applications out there today. It's, I almost don't want to describe it because I feel like part of the challenge of Evernote is describing what the product is. But most people think of it as like a note taker, but it's so much more. And they have 5 million users in just 2 years. And you may have heard $20 million for their C round from a small venture capital firm out of the Valley called Sequoia.
That's Sequoia.
Yeah. Sequoia Capital.
They're big, actually.
They're big? Oh, yeah. It's the first time I'm hearing of them. Sequoia Capital put $20 million into it. Phil, thanks for joining us on the program. Welcome.
Thank you. I can never remember how to spell their name, actually.
Yeah, it's with the SQ. Yeah. There's an S-E-Q. It took me a while.
There's some J's in there. There's an X.
Really, it's the phonetic spelling. So, right off the bat, I mean, everybody's heard of Evernote. I use it. How do you describe it? Because the product is, it seems like you are one of these companies that releases a new version and new features. I don't know if you're releasing stuff every 48 hours or 72 hours, but it feels like you could count it in hours, the number of features and platforms you're on. How do you describe Evernote?
Well, what we're doing is we're building the world's memory. So we want to be the trusted place for all of your lifetime memory. Everything that happens to you, we want you to remember it in Evernote.
Okay. So that's like the feel-good, like I'm a, visionary genius explanation. Like that's the marketing. I get it. Like, hey, Mahalo's the place where you can learn anything. Like that's our new branding for January. We're starting out the new year. So remember everything. I love it. But what does that mean on a practical basis? How do I use it on a day-to-day? What's the use? What's the primary use cases you're seeing?
Well, basically, we figured your whole life can be broken up into kind of 2 major categories. There's all that stuff that happens to you while you're sitting in front of a computer. And then all the stuff that happens to you while you're not sitting in front of your computer. And in both of those halves, you've got stuff happens that you want to remember. So if you're in front of your computer and you see a website that you want to remember or an item that you want to buy, you can just highlight it and push one button and clip it to Evernote. If you're not in front of your computer, you're at a restaurant, you have a bottle of wine that you want to remember, or you met someone that you want to remember, you can take a picture of the wine label or their business card or a whiteboard, or you can leave yourself an audio note, or you can text something in. And all of this stuff, whether it kind of comes from a digital memory or a real-world memory, we can make it easy for you to capture in whatever format is most natural. Pictures, text, audio, web clips, documents, whatever. Everything's synchronized to our servers, and we do a whole lot of black magic processing on it to make it easy to search. And then everything is synchronized back down to all of your devices, so that if you wake up in a strange hotel room at 3 a.m., you're not really sure where you are, and you're just going to reach your hand out blindly, the first device you can get your hand on is going to have your full Evernote account, and you'll be able to remember everything that way.
So most people look at it and say, oh, it's a word processor, but now it's gone way beyond that. You can bookmark stuff into it, and so it's got a little bit of that sort of Delicious. And Delicious never, as great a product as it was, and social bookmarking was, it never reached scale. And then you had things like, was it X? Was Bill Gross's desktop search index? It would just search your entire desktop. You could find all that stuff. So now you guys have this ability to search. Then you've got the images, sort of like Flickr, and putting all that stuff in one bucket. And then you have things like, what's the synchronized box? What do they call that?
Dropbox?
Dropbox. You get a little bit of a Dropbox aspect to it. But you guys seem to have said, you know what? Let's stop worrying about like which category it's in. Is it a bookmark? Right. Is it an image? Is it a document? Is it Google Docs? Is it a spreadsheet? Whatever. Let's just put it all into one location, and then we'll do some searching and magic on it, and you throw in the Google desktop search. I mean, was that always the vision, or did that come out of the fact that you just had a kick-ass word processor?
Well, the vision was always to just give everyone a better memory. We thought, this isn't an original idea. I mean, I think for thousands of years, people haven't been fully satisfied with their meat brains, and they want something better. And we always wanted to build your shiny metal brain, your second memory, and it always meant everything because. In your own head, you don't really distinguish things based on, well, is this a contact, or is it an appointment, or is it a web clip, or is it a document, or is it a note, or is it a recipe? It's all just mashed in there in your head. And so we just wanted to make a system that mirrored that, let you put everything in without worrying what type it was, but then make it so that you could always find it later on.
And so if the person listening is a Microsoft Exchange, Microsoft Outlook, Office junkie, what do they call their cloud stuff, like SharePoint or something? Is that when you share applications? And then you have I'm a Google Docs groupie. I have like 4 companies running on Google Docs. So I got all these documents going all over the place. Mm-hmm. What is a person like that? How do you see them embracing Evernote? Do they have to give up one of those other services to use it? Are they syncing between them? What's the use case for that person?
Yeah, well, I mean, I use a lot of those things myself every day, and we do in the company. I think usually my advice is to someone starting out with Evernote is to pick one particular use case that is just going to do really well for you, and just use it for that. For example, if you go to a lot of conferences or trade shows, a great Evernote use case is just take pictures of people and their name tags. And then you can remember them. You can remember everyone you met and what conversations you had. And Evernote lets you search for text inside of images. So you can search by name and you'll find the pictures of people with their name tag. Everything is geocoded so you can find out where you were. And just start using it for remembering people at conferences, for example. Or if you're into wine, use it to remember wine that you have, or recipes or whatever. And once you kind of grok it, once you get it for one particular use case, it'll become obvious how you can just use it for your whole life. And I live in Evernote at this point. I use it for everything. But I also use, we use Google Docs at the office for real-time collaboration. So if I'm working on an engineering roadmap with my VP of products, we're using Google Docs. We use, all sorts of other stuff. We use Gmail. We use a lot of other apps, but when it comes to actually my personal memory, everything that's in my life that I want to remember, it all winds up one way or another in Evernote.
And is this something that you see corporations embracing for their entire teams, and then there's some collaboration between each person's brain, and it gets into the groupware, Lotus Notes, space to become an archaeologist here. I mean, probably half the people don't even know what I'm talking about when I talk about Lotus Notes and groupware, but predating all of this stuff, in social media was groupware. And I was one of the first Lotus Notes programmers in New York City when I worked at Sony. How do you see that evolving? Do you have organizations? What's the largest deploy of Evernote?
Well, we are, up to now, we've been completely consumer-based. So 80% of our users in surveys actually say that they use Evernote at work as well as at home. So our main customer is it's a modern knowledge worker, right? It's someone who doesn't really know the difference between work and personal stuff. It's kind of always on both all the time. But it's all been self-service. So we don't have a sales team. We don't sell to really anyone, companies or individuals, but most of our users wind up using it at home and at work. Just last week, we actually launched sponsored accounts, which is a way for companies and schools to sponsor a bunch of their employees into Evernote Premium, so you can buy bulk accounts. But that's only a few days old, literally. So we get a bunch of people contacting us from companies saying, hi, my name is so-and-so, and I work for, whatever big Fortune 500 company, and I love Evernote, and I got all of my team members using it, and we'd love to use it officially. So we're just getting started on that. But up to now, it's been 100%, individual self-service decisions. And
pursuing a freemium model, the software costs about $50 a year, if I remember correctly. $5 a month, something to that is the effect.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, $5 a month or $45 a year.
So not super expensive, but it is still a considered purchase. If you're going to
I mean, there's a free version, right? And we kind of want, the free version is the main version. We expect the vast majority of people to use it for free forever. and to never pay, and that's fine with us. So we really treat the free version as the central version of Evernote. We're constantly improving it. We want it to be good enough for the vast majority of people. And if you really love it, then if you need some power user features, then you can upgrade for $5 a month to the premium version, and that works really well. That as a business model, that's worked fantastically well for us.
What is the main reason people upgrade?
That's interesting. So there's a bunch of premium features that you get. So you get, better handling, better PDF indexing. You can put in arbitrary attachments. You get note history. So you can basically have version control. You can go back to a previous version of a note, which is useful if you have one person editing it. So there's a bunch of features like that are premium only. But the number one reason people give on surveys when we ask why did you pay is because I love Evernote. That's kind of what we see. So basically, the more you use it, the longer someone uses it, the more likely they are to start paying, even if they don't need any of the premium features, just because, once you've got your whole life in there, you feel like it's valuable. You kind of want to pay for it. And it's cheap enough at that point where it's not really a big decision for most people.
It's almost as if the whole free movement on the web has been rewarded by users who say, we're conscious of the fact that this is free and this is not free for you to actually provide. Please let us give you some money so that you can have the service to make sure this service is fast and up and running. I mean, that is sort of a dynamic that has changed in the web. People used to feel like, oh, I'm going to get it for free and I deserve it for free. Now they're sort of like, I'm kind of willing to pay.
Well, yeah, all of our users are useful to us. They're all very helpful. So if you use it for free for 20 years and you never pay, that's fine. In fact, it's more important for us that you stay for life than that you ever pay. Because chances are every month you use it, you're getting more of your friends to use it, you're talking about it, you're more likely to pay, your friends are more likely to pay. We're going to take a long-term greedy approach to business. We're here to make money, and we're making money, but we're here to make money in the long term. We're not trying to do anything to kind of squeeze every last dollar out of someone right away. So the best way that we found, and we've got really great stats to back this up, the best way that we found to get somebody to pay is to make them feel like they never have to pay and give them enough time to fall in love with the product, and then they just want to pay, and then they just do normally. And so we have this long-term approach, and it's, so far so good. It's been working fantastically.
And what is a conversion like in a freemium model like this? Do 5% convert, 10%? What is the range?
So that's really interesting, and most companies won't tell you, but I do because I don't know, it's easier than keeping it secret, I guess. So our overall rate. So the short answer is the overall conversion rate is kind of a meaningless number. Okay. It's about 3% for us, but I'll tell you why it's meaningless. Because the percentage of people that pay depends almost entirely on how long they've been using the system. So, for example, in the first month, only 0.5% of our users pay. So only 0.5% of everyone who signs up, let's say this month, is going to pay us this month.
Right.
But then every month that they still keep using the system, they're more and more likely to pay. So our oldest users, the oldest cohort's about 2.5 years old. We've been launched for about 2.5 years. The guys that are about 2.5 years old, 20% of them are paying.
Wow.
So the longer you use it, the more time we give you to fall in love with it and see value in it, the more likely you are to start paying. So the conversion rates go north of 20% in time. So the current average, the 3%, that's more a factor of how quickly we're growing.
Right.
So our average user has only been using us for a couple of months because we're growing so fast. We're adding 18,000 users every single day. It takes a few months for them to start converting. So the faster we grow, the lower the conversion rate is, but that's kind of a meaningless number.
And so since you've learned, this amazing piece of information that the longevity with the free product equals increased conversion, and you started tracking cohorts, groups of people who, downloaded the application and started using the service in the same time period. For those people who don't know what a cohort group is, so that would be like, hey, in June of 2009, these people signed up. How many of those still exist, and how many have converted? How does that change how you run the business?
Oh, it's completely. This is the fundamental, analysis that we do. The cohort analysis is the fundamental driving force of every decision we make, which has basically led us to realize, and we kind of always hoped this would be the case, but it's good that we have the data to back it up, that the most important thing for us is to make a great product and make people want to use it forever. So we don't do anything that'll decrease usage. And that kind of sounds obvious, right? It sounds like, well, why would anyone do something that would decrease usage? But the main thing that we could do is we could make the free version noticeably worse than the premium version. And if we did that, we could cripple it, or
handicap it.
The next 20 features we can just put out premium only.
Right.
But what that would mean is that would increase our revenue in the short term because a larger percentage of people would pay, but it would be a really asinine decision because an even larger percentage of people would just stop using it. They would fall out of love, or they wouldn't have enough time to fall in love with it, and in the long term, we would lose a ton of money. So that's why we're serious about the free version of Evernote is the main version. That's what we lead with. It's not a loss leader. It's not a tease to get you to pay. It is the version that we want you to use.
Well, this is fascinating in terms of freemium, because we hear freemium, but you don't actually get to this level of granularity. So when you look at, hey, here's my roadmap, I've got 10 features. Let's say all 10 features are generally equal in terms of importance to the average person. They're all, nice to good. How many would you put in the free on average, and how many would you say would you put into the premium?
Well, there's probably 8 or 9 would be free, and 1 or 2 would be premium. There's kind of 2 types of features that we put into premium. One is there are some things that we can't afford to do for free, just because if things have a scalability cost, we just can't afford to do it. We couldn't afford to have 5 million people or 6 million people using a particular feature for free. Then we would put it into premium, and that's, for example, the case with if you scan. So we do image processing, for all images, including for PDFs. But for free users, you only get image processing for single-page images, so like JPEGs and bitmaps. If you have a 50-page PDF that you scan in a 50-page contract into Evernote, store it in there for you. And if it's text, you can search it. But premium users will actually go through every page and will do a OCR. Well, it's actually a little bit better than OCR. It actually indexes all of the text in those images. And that's a premium-only feature because we can't afford to do that for everyone. If we had millions of people putting in hundreds of pages of PDFs, it would just literally, we have 100-something servers doing this, it would come to a crawl. But we can afford to do it for premium users. So some stuff like that, if we literally can't afford it, it goes into premium. Otherwise, almost everything is free. Unless we think it's a feature that would be particularly important to, corporate users, power users, things like that. So like our note histories, that kind of stuff, we put into the premium. But I would say 9 out of 10 things we add are free.
Wow. And so now company, I hear rumors, almost $1 million a month in revenue. You don't have to confirm that unless you feel like it. But obviously, just on the math, you gave us, you got to be making millions of dollars a year already. On the program, over this freemium program. What has been the difficult part of the business? Because it seems like this is one of these charmed businesses that in 3 years has gone from basically being, like a life hacker, .com kind of darling, one of the first great iPad apps, one of the great, iPhone early apps when there wasn't a lot of competition, frankly. You guys were able to get noticed. And now all of a sudden this has just become a staggeringly large business for, 30 months or 36 months of existence.
Yeah, it was amazingly difficult, especially the first couple of years. Evernote was it was a big turnaround. Basically, we relaunched the company when I joined in 2007. We first launched the service in the summer of 2008, and it was we came close to death many times. We were raising money in the fall of 2008, right as the world was collapsing.
Good times.
It was. We literally came within probably 15 minutes at one point of shutting down the company. And so initially, the fundraising was brutal. It was the biggest problem was just staying alive. We never had more than a couple of months of payroll.
So when you walk into a VC in that time period, and you say, "Hey, I have this idea. I want to be your virtual brain," and they're thinking, "Jesus Christ! If I make a capital call, I'm not going to get the money from these endowments that don't even know if they have it." Take me to that moment. What is it like? Are those guys just totally like, what are you talking about? You want to do what with somebody's brain, with your company?
Yeah, it's tough. It was really, we had, at one point, we managed to line up an investment of a pretty big one. It was like a $10 million round, and it took a long time. We were in due diligence for like 9 months. It wasn't a Silicon Valley.
Holy cow.
Yeah, it wasn't a Silicon Valley VC because they wouldn't touch us at that point. But it was a different investor. And about 9 months of due diligence, during which we had to clean up a lot of the a lot of the hassle that was at the company kind of at its founding. There was some IP issues that we had to clean up. Just basically, did a recapitalization. So it took about 9 months to get everything spick and span. And in that 9 months, we couldn't talk to any other investor. And the day that it was supposed to close was in October of 2008. It was the day that the market really tanked. That, I think Lehman closed and everything just tanked. And the investor called us on the day of closing and said, "Sorry, we were wiped out. We can't give you $10 million."
Oh my God.
And so we had basically 6 weeks of money left in the bank. We hadn't been able to. And I thought it was over. I thought that's it. The world is falling apart. No other VC is going to talk to me at this point. We just don't have enough time to do anything. So we scrambled for a couple of weeks, but we couldn't find anything. And I literally said, I remember I was sitting at home at 3 a.m. and I finally made the decision. We had about a month of payroll left, and I said, okay, I have to shut down the company tomorrow because I have to be an adult about this.
Right.
I can't literally wait until we have zero cash. I got to pay salary. I got to make sure there's no obligation. So I said, okay, it's 3 a.m. I'm going to sleep. I'm going to wake up tomorrow, go to the office, and start shutting down the company like an adult. It was my first time I thought I would have to act like an adult. And right before I went to bed, I just got this random email from some guy in Sweden. And it just said, "Hey, I'm a random guy in Sweden, and just wanted to let you know I love Evernote, and I've been using it for a couple of months, and it's totally saved my life, and this is the best software ever. I really, really love this program." And it made me feel slightly better. I thought, well, at least we made a difference to one guy in Sweden. But then he went on to say, "So I'm just wondering if you guys want any money." And I wrote back at 3 a.m. I wrote back, "Yes, we would like some money."
Yes.
And I got on a Skype call with him 10 minutes later, and 2 weeks after that, he sent us $500,000
Holy cow.
as an angel investor, and that saved us. And that $500,000 was exactly what we needed to actually go and raise a real round afterwards. Get through the worst time. So we were literally saved by a user who just happened to be rich enough to be able to write a check for $500,000 in Sweden. And it was, had I not seen that email, had I decided to go to bed, probably wouldn't have even opened it the next morning, right? Because I'd have been in shut down the company mode. So there's a bunch of really lucky breaks that I can't take credit for. But after that, once we kind of got through the hump, had enough data, and did the cohort analysis, then it became much easier. Then it was multiple term sheets and people lining up to give us cash. And so it really turned around sharply.
And with a $500,000 user account, I assume he can upload more than 150 high-res images per month. We have basically 3 tiers of service. We have free, we have $5 a month, and we have the $500,000 level. $500,000 for life.
Slightly more.
What should young entrepreneurs who watch the program, it's a good portion of the people who watch this Weekend Startups are young entrepreneurs, first-time entrepreneurs, dreamers. What should they take away from this experience that you can go from absolutely effed, at 11 o'clock at night, 12 midnight, 1 o'clock, then absolutely saved at 3 a.m., and then have people fighting for a term sheet after that, and then you get the gold standard Sequoia to anoint you with a $20 million round, and now you got a $10 million run rate company, and everything's roses. I mean, how does one in that 18, 24 months keep their sanity?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough, and I don't think you can keep your sanity. I certainly haven't kept mine. I think, you can learn a lot of wrong lessons from this. I mean, I can tell people, never give up and stick with it, but I'm an isolated data point. We got lucky. I think the best advice for entrepreneurs is don't bother doing this unless it's an idea that you're really infatuated with, because you're probably going to fail. And since you're probably going to fail anyway, you may as well just only do things that you absolutely love doing. That is your life mission. That is your infatuation. That increases your chances of succeeding because that kind of infatuation is infectious. Other people see it and they want to be with you. They want to be along for the ride. But even if the most likely outcome happens and you burn out, at least you've done something that you've pursued something that you love. So that's really I think the most important advice I can give. If you're thinking of starting a business because you think it's a good way to make money, it really isn't. Arithmetically speaking, you're much better off just holding onto a job. Yeah,
absolutely. And I mean, this is sort of the philosophy that some of these guys who do this crazy extreme sports have, which is like, hey, if I'm going out big, on the big wave, on the big half pipe, on the big drop, whatever it is. But boy, what a story. And to be raising money at that period of time, I mean.
That was rough.
Yeah, I mean, and I remember that period of time. We had a lot of money in the bank from Mahalo, and I was just like, my God, I was in a panic. And with 3 years of capital in the bank, you remember, because Tyler, you were there with me. And now, with everything getting really great, do you feel like those experiences make you more conservative in the future? That you're a little too conservative, maybe you don't go for it as much because you get the battle scars?
Well, we took the money from Sequoia partially as a conservative move, but partially as a really aggressive move. We didn't need this cash, so we did our B round from Morgenthaler, raised about $11 million a year ago, and we still have like $9 million of that left because we pretty much got to just living off of revenue. So we had $9 million in the bank. We were cash flow break even at that point. We didn't need another $20 million. And we turned down a lot of people. And then Sequoia came around, and I said, okay, let me take this seriously. And we really sat down with them and kind of thought through, okay, how could we expand faster if we had this cash? And it was just a good offer. They made a good case. So we took this cash, even though it's just sitting in the bank at this point. We've got almost $30 million in the bank, 20 million plus what we had before. And partially it's there because if we do go into another bad period in the economy, I'd feel a whole lot better with $30 million in the bank to do it.
Yeah.
But partially it's because we are looking for much more aggressive growth. So we kind of shifted our thinking from who's going to buy us to, who can we buy?
Right.
What else can we do with it? And I'm kind of forcing myself to be a lot more expansionist in our thinking about this kind of stuff to counteract some of the natural tendencies.
Localization, maybe going to some other countries, some other languages.
Yeah.
Is that part? It screams to me of internationalization when you raise a power round like that.
Oh yeah, we're already in like 16 languages, and we're huge in Japan. I don't know if you knew, but Japan is going crazy. We're big there. About 24% of our users are Japan. About 30% of our revenue is coming out of Japan.
Wow.
There are 14 books about Evernote. Like a bunch of the stuff behind me. There's 14 published, physical books in Japan about Evernote. Like you go into a bookstore in Tokyo, there's an Evernote section. There's all sorts of craziness.
So you're big in Japan,
there.
You're saying?
We're big in Japan. On my last trip, I downloaded every version of that song I could on my iPhone.
Yeah.
And I just listened to them over and over. The Tom Waits version is my favorite.
And you spent a month in Japan, I hear?
I've been there like 7 times this year.
Wow.
Including once for like 5 weeks. Well, Japan, then I went to Singapore, and then I came back to Japan. We have an office there now.
Yeah.
So I'd always wanted to say I'm going to be working out of the Tokyo office this week. It's sort of one of the.
Yeah.
There are three phrases that as a kid I said I'm going to structure my life so that I could say these 3 phrases. One was set the controls for the heart of the sun.
That's a good one.
Yeah, I still haven't been able to say that. The second one is fire the explosive bolts.
Nice.
I haven't been able to say that. And then the third one was I'm going to spend this week working out of the Tokyo office. And I had been able to say that now, so I'm 1 for 3.
I think my 3, I was just thinking about it. I think the first one was my team won the NBA championship.
There you go.
In whatever the year. That was the Knicks.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Tyler, get me another mocha if you can, was the other, Tyler. And then I think the third was let him live. But that was like a gladiator kind of thing, like a thumbs up, thumb down. But I don't think that I could ever really say that in this day and age.
Everyone should have like the 3 quotes that they want to say that they structure their life around. So that's probably a good policy.
And so questions from the audience. If you have a question, Tyler will read it. Just put Q colon in the chat room. If you are on Ustream, ustream.tv/thisweekin, or you can ask us on Twitter by using the #twist hashtag TWIST. Tyler, any questions from the audience for Phil?
Someone asked, and I kind of wanted to know myself, loving Japan as much as I do, what kind of unique use cases have you seen come out of there? Because they tend to be known for having taking unique
culturally unique, especially when it comes to technology.
Right.
Yeah, there's a bunch of really cool stuff in Japan. And by the way, so we only know use cases when people tell us. We don't look into anyone's data. Our policy is strictly anything you put into Evernote is private. We never look at it ourselves, let alone share it with anyone. So, but people volunteer a bunch of stuff to us. So they tell us a bunch of stuff. So yeah, there's cool stuff. There's a really good manga illustrator who uses Evernote basically for all of the research and sort of writing of our comics, which is really neat. There's a few musicians that use Evernote in Japan for basically all of capturing inspiration, composing, writing lyrics, sharing music and content, which is very cool. I've seen some music use cases in the U.S. as well, but it seems to be kind of a big thing in Japan. And then there's a huge Japanese life hacking community, I think much bigger than it is here, where they literally they specify down to the detail of exactly what kind of pencil and paper to use, and Evernote is huge there. So like one of our partners in Japan, about half of our partners are actually Japanese companies. Some really big ones like Sony and Toshiba, but also small like 2 or 3 person companies. And one of them makes this. Let's see if I have it on me. Yeah. So like this is pretty cool. So this is a little notepad case with an Evernote logo, which you probably can't see. Yeah. And it's like handmade Japanese leather by leather artisans. And the idea is you open it and there's a piece of paper and you can kind of take notes with a pen here. And you take notes, and when you flip pages, it's just one folded up piece of paper. So you can flip pages and take notes, but when you're done, you unfold it, and it's just one piece of paper, and then you take a picture of it or you throw it through a scanner and it goes into Evernote. So it's kind of the best of paper and Japanese stuff. And they've really like optimized like exactly what this notepad is like to a really obsessive level of detail. And they're selling these in Japan, and they sell like hotcakes. I think it's in our trunk as well. So if anyone cares, you can look in the trunk in Evernote, and I think there's all sorts of Japanese stuff in there. Cool. It's a really crazy place. I really like it. One thing that I thought I was unique in doing, because I've never seen anyone else doing this in the U.S., is for years I've been taking pictures of food. So like when I go to a restaurant, if I like it, I take pictures of it. Everyone in Japan does that.
They're obsessed with food. I mean, just the plastic food. Pictures. I mean, you could literally buy plastic food at stores that they put in the restaurant windows. That plastic food costs a ton of money.
Yeah, well,
you have them there on the back shelf?
Yeah, there you go. So this is, we've got all sorts of Japanese plastic food here. If I move, it's going to disconnect my internet.
You got your teriyaki bowls over there. I see them.
Yeah, I got some sushi. I got a hot dog. I got a big nambe bowl.
Yeah.
The hardest part about that, I was getting that in a restaurant supply store in Osaka, and the guy didn't speak any English. And the hardest part was making sure that he understood that, like, yes, I understand that this is plastic food.
Yes, I am not going to eat your food. I'm not going to eat this.
Right. He was very concerned, obviously, that I'm a fat, dumb American. I thought I was getting real food that I was going to eat, and so I was very concerned. But
Tyler, another question from the audience.
So there seemed to be a decidedly unsocial element to it. Sam X10 was curious if what thoughts you have along those lines.
Yeah, is it purposely that way?
Yeah. We started out actively antisocial. We said Evernote doesn't care about your friends. Evernote doesn't care about your friends' pets. Evernote cares about you, about what's in your head, about substantive things, about school or work or hobbies that you want to keep track of. And we're not social at all. And we kind of took a big gamble by doing this because it was not clear how quickly you could grow without having viral features. We didn't have any advertising budget. We never did any advertising. So all of our growth is word of mouth. And so the big gamble we took was, can you grow at viral speeds without any viral features? And it turns out you can, because everyone already has all their social tools and they love talking about products they love. So if you make a great product and people love it, even though if it itself is not social, everyone still talks about it. So you can still take advantage of the growth, which was I wasn't sure if that was the case. So that was probably the biggest gamble we took. But yeah, we did it because we thought that there's already so many, your social life is already covered by so many great apps. You already have Twitter and Facebook and LinkedIn and everything else. And there really wasn't a whole lot for for yourself. That wasn't about your friends or your colleagues. So we specifically focused on that. Now we're maturing a little bit, and now we're saying, these two halves of your life, your social half and your kind of informational half, your personal half, they need to connect really well. So we're building in all sorts of connectivity between Evernote and the social tools. You can share notebooks, you can do all sorts of stuff. You will add a lot more stuff in the future. But the goal is still, Evernote itself, it will not be social. It will be for capturing your own thoughts and memories. It'll be your personal brain, but the parts of it that you want to share, we'll let you do that with the social networks of your choice.
How quickly, I have a question, how quickly before geolocation and streaming video would be part of this? Because when you talk about this sort of brain thing, it gets me back to some science fiction versions of this, which were in one of William Gibson's novels, I can't remember, but he had this thing called God's Little Machine, which was a Zeppelin about that big that actually floated above your head with a camera, and it basically recorded your entire life, and everybody had them floating around. So when you went to a cocktail party, there'd be all Zeppelins everywhere.
And I'm mentoring a company in Singapore that's making those. So.
You're kidding.
No, that's totally going to happen. I've mentored a few companies, and one of them is in Singapore, and it's a guy who's making those things, and they're going to be awesome.
So basically, we will be live casted and saving our brain soon. But what about geolocation? Does geolocation or video come into this? Or are those data types and that vector not
Yeah,
necessary?
geolocation is in now, so everything is geotagged in Evernote, and you can search for things in a map. We capture that information everywhere we can. So if you have if I remember that, I was sitting in Paris about 3 years ago, and I was having a really nice lunch, and it was a nice day outside, and I had a cocktail napkin with a name and a phone number, and I really want to find that phone number right now. Well, if I remember the name and the cocktail napkin, I could just type for that, and I'll get a picture of the napkin. But if I don't remember the name, but I remember that it was in Paris 3 years ago, I can just look on a map and say, well, show me everything from Paris 3 years ago. And I visually see thumbnails.
I do this with Evernote with the business cards of people I meet.
He does it with business cards. He takes a picture of the business card and hands it back.
Well,
I do that.
That too, but the OCR is so good that it'll pick up their email and everything else. But like he said, more importantly, it'll show me where I met them, so I can say who did I meet at that conference. That's how I use it.
That feature is absolutely.
And that's a really I'm really glad you found that, because that made business cards useful for me.
Yeah.
So whenever I get a business card now, I try to take a picture of it right there instead of waiting to get back to my office, because if you do it right there, it's time-stamped and geo-stamped, and then you can use it as like a physical bookmark to jump back to that point in your life. And chances are, if I meet someone who's interesting enough where I actually want to remember them, there's a very high likelihood that other interesting things will happen around that time and place.
And it's a very good people use that as a mental reference anyways of other things that occur pre-post meeting that person.
Crazy88, we'll get our final question here. Crazy88 asks, where will Evernote go from here? Give us some clue as to what's next. Give us a nugget.
Well, in 2011, the goal is ubiquity. So we want Evernote to be everywhere. So we're going to be on every type of phone, every type of computer. We're already on most phones, but we're adding every other type of platform. And a bunch of other stuff. So we'll be on TVs, we'll be in cars, we'll be on refrigerators. We'll be integrated with just about every gadget that you own in your whole life, and in just about every country. So it's ubiquity is the main theme.
Yeah.
And the secondary theme, which is kind of always the case, but now we're actually investing a lot of money into it, is publish. So a lot of our users right now, we have almost 6 million people. It's early adopters. But we know that the next audience has to be much more mainstream users, and what they really care about is polish and user experience. And that's really expensive to do, but we're spending a lot of time and money sitting there, polishing every single thing so that it just looks and feels beautiful. And that's actually the most expensive. That's much more expensive than adding any arbitrary features. So we're doing all of those.
Phil, thank you for being on the program. Continued success. I really appreciate it. I know the audience appreciates your honesty and insights into how you got the freemium model to work. I mean, that was really, that's just gold right there. And I learned a lot and took some notes. And continued success with Evernote. Everybody go check out evernote.com and follow at Evernote on Twitter. And just go ahead and pay for it, because it's only $5 a month. You can always cancel. But download the app right now. And then if
you
don't
lose anything if you cancel.
You don't lose anything if you cancel. You keep all your data.
No.
So it's not like that game where, like, when I had Flickr, this was the thing that pissed me off about Flickr when Yahoo bought it. I pay for every year. Then I missed my payment because, like, I had the same credit card in there. So 3 years they do the same credit card. That credit card dies. I got a new credit card, right? Expiration date, whatever. Cut it in half. Then they're like, oh, you can't see your sets. Your sets are there, but you can't see them. And I'm like, that's a really D move. It was a real D-bag move. Like, well, you can, if I had the thing, you give me a little bit of a grace period or something. It's just, the data should never be locked based on price. That's like the storage locker guys, Yep. I just don't like that. Anyway, everybody go check it out. Phil, thanks for being on the program, and continued success, of course.
Thank you so much, guys.
Cheers.
It was great to see you.
Great to see you as well.
Thank you.
Man, the level of guests just keeps going up. I mean, it's basically now anybody we call has seen the program. I mean, that's one of the great things. And it's almost like now, it's almost like a stamp in your passport. You basically, I've got VC firms. I had a VC firm here. A VC firm said for me today, hey, I know you raised a little angel money for this weekend. We don't invest in content companies. I said, that's totally cool, because I was just talking to him like, hey, maybe we'll do a little something later. And he said, but however, we have like 4 companies we really need to get on This Week in Startups. And I just thought to myself, wow, what's it worth to you? Maybe you should participate in the next financing round for this weekend. I mean, we're trying to get to HD as the next move here. Right. We want to upgrade the whole, and we have cameras that are HD, but we have the SD TriCaster, so there's a lot of cool solutions with HD. And a really cool solution for you if you're trying to name your company correctly is .co, .co, don't you know, .co. Everybody's talking about it. And hey, they're going to be on the Super Bowl. They made it to the Super Bowl. Can you imagine this is like, can I get like a round of applause for that? I need like I used to have a soundboard here.
Yes.
Like I need to have the soundboard. Like I need a dun 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 and like a massive audience applause. This is incredible. I mean, .co is really living the dream. They're going to be in the GoDaddy Super Bowl ads. These guys are doing tremendous together because there's so many great domain names available. And if you're starting a company, I went this morning. I was at an Israeli delegation's breakfast. They all had terrible names, and I had to do the whole. They're like, "How can we improve our companies, Jason?" And I'm like, "Okay, you have great technology. You have some great ideas." But you have to get a decent domain name for them. You have dashes in your domain names. You have domains nobody could ever hope to spell. I mean, these are domain names that a Mensa candidate couldn't spell on the first try. Unbelievable. And you can get the perfect domain at .co. Over 600,000 domains have been registered, which means there's a lot left. Go create your own opportunity. O.co went to Overstock. T.co went to Twitter. And X.co went to GoDaddy. So get in there and get some great domain names. Hey, even if you're going to buy 10 of them and just hold them, I highly recommend doing that. I have 25 of them. Go buy them, sit on them, and you will be able to resell them, I'm certain, because a lot of people are going over there and buying .co names. Thank you so much. And if you want to thank them on Twitter, just say right now, thank you, DOTCO, at DOTCO. Thank you, .co, for supporting This Week in Startups. And what's really helpful is when you go buy a domain name, go ahead and tweet that you bought the domain name, and I will retweet it to 100,000 people. Let's do an Ask Jason. Here we go. Tamam?
Yes.
I got it right?
Yes, you got it right.
Tamam. I got it. Tamam. You're calling from the 778. Where are you calling from?
That's Vancouver, Canada.
You're in Canada.
Yes.
There are technology companies in Canada. It is true. RIM is up in Canada. There's a lot of great design companies up in Canada. And I hear a little bit of a startup scene. There's some incubators, accelerators popping up. True?
That's true. They're coming up. I mean, Vancouver is a good city. You probably heard of 99 Designs.
Sure.
Plenty of Fish, Hootsuite. They're all here based in Vancouver, and it's growing.
Yeah. It's great. And so you have a question for us. Let's hear it.
Yes, Jason, my partner and I have been trying to bootstrap a company called iJourney.com, and a website launched a month and a half ago, Path.com. You've covered it in your Jason Nation newsletter, and you're pretty optimistic about it.
Yes.
It's very similar to what we're trying to do.
Yeah.
So they have a lot more power than us. They're experienced entrepreneurs. We're kind of first-time entrepreneurs.
Yep.
So what do you suggest we should do? What strategy we should follow? Should we pivot? Should we zig where they zag? Should we try something else? What's your suggestion, Jason?
Okay. So I get this often. The best companies don't worry too much about the competition. They just go out and execute. And so you're saying, wow, how do we ever compete with Path? Dave Moran's in the Valley. He's a darling. Jason wrote 3,000 words on him. He's got the Ron Conway behind him. He's got a 4-letter domain name. That's obviously a lot better than iJourney, although iJourney is not bad. And we're up in Vancouver. You know, all these things. Wow. I mean, there's a million reasons of why you can lose, but you get in the game on any given Sunday, anybody could possibly win. Now, that being said, you don't want to jump in front of a train. That's not productive. And so if you look at what Path is doing, they're looking at what Facebook did, and they're saying, how do we zig where they zagged? How do we do something a little counter, a little quixotic, a little different? And their spin on it was, let's do this only for your top 50 friends. And you know what? I am putting photos, and I geotagged a photo on my Path with my home location. It's the first time I've ever done that. But I felt safe doing it, because I was like, this is only like 20 people I know. They've all been to my house. You know, if I geotag, you've been to my house 100 times. It's no big deal. So I took a picture of fondue and I geotagged it. I know it can't possibly be public. So wow, okay, there's some angle there. That's your job. You've got to come up with an angle that makes you unique and that resonates with the users. What that angle is, well, it could be anything. It could be that your video to Path's photos. It could be that you're for moms and kids and it's a vertical social network just for moms, and you have to be a mom and a kid to be part of it or something. You know, there's all different ways to spin it. Verticalization by geography, by topic, by demographics, by media type. You can go horizontal. There's all different ways to do that. In your case, You're doing more media types than them, and so all you have to worry about is having a nice group of people who are your friends start using it, and then study them and see how they use it, and ask them what they would do, what would make them use it more, and then create things and experiment on them. At the end of the day, you have to learn, right? So this is not your first company, I don't think. It's not going to be your last. It's not certainly not your first idea. It certainly won't be your last. And so look at this as part of your journey as well. Look at this as part of your path. If part of your path is getting your ass kicked by somebody with more money, in a better location, with a better team and a better domain name, guess what? You're going to learn a hell of a lot from that, and maybe you come back stronger. And that's the way I always looked at it. Hey, if I'm going to get my ass kicked, so be it. You know, you may have heard I got my ass handed to me a little bit with this whole TechCrunch fiasco with the conference. But you know what? I'm coming back stronger. Launch is going to be the better conference. You could be damn sure of that. And I will have my revenge in this life or the next. And I'm trust me, I'm a made guy, and I got fire in my belly. So you got to get up for the fight with this and say, hey, we had this idea before them. We executed on it before them. Maybe they executed a little bit better than you. Well, get up for the fight and figure out how you can do it better. I mean, I see you have video already, and you have text, and you have comments. He doesn't have that. So keep fighting, and fight for your local community and get them using it and meet with your users. Tyler, what's your advice?
The thought that is going, or the feeling that you're having, or the thought you're having, is quite similar to every music artist who is recording their record, and some bigger band comes out with that sound.
Yeah.
And as crazy as that seems, it's like
must be crushing.
Hendrix was crushed when, oh no, you know who was crushed? Paul McCartney was crushed when the Beach Boys came out with Pet Sounds. He's like, there's
that's the end of the Beatles.
That's it, we're screwed.
Pack it in.
Yeah.
Forget about the White Album.
How are we ever going to top that?
Yeah.
And they were working on the White Album.
Yeah, forget it. Put the White Album. Pull the plug. Forget it. Burn the tapes.
Right, but you know,
Blackbird singing the answer night.
Things move in different directions, and you know, path seems large in our small world of things.
Sure.
And it's got a ton of potential, and every reason to be bullish on it. But I mean, no one's even got on the field yet, and you're already, you know.
Yeah, you're panicking already.
Yeah.
This is what we call playing on your heels. Yeah. You got to play on the tip of your toes. Just assume you're going to win. Assume that you're going to break through, and hey, maybe you will.
Plus, they have a whole evolution ahead of them with their product, as do you, and you know, there's no reason to assume those are going to be in sync either. So. And
even if you guys are in the same race, who knows if that race is going to lead you off a cliff? Thelma and Louise style, you know, that happens sometimes too.
Definitely happens.
People are like, oh my God, you know, like, hey, what about human-powered search? Everybody's like, oh my God, human-powered search is the next big thing. We did human-powered search, Wikia did human-powered search, you know, just everybody trying to advance search with socialization. Hakia, Cool, I mean, there's a list of 10 people who started human-powered search or search-related things in 2007, including myself. Each of us raised a ton of money. You know who's number one right now? You know why? Because we pivoted. And we added to that vision. We added Q&A, we added video, we added articles. That's why we're in the pole position. And I don't know, I think Cool's out of business, or a lot of these, Wikia gave up. I mean, right. So you never know where the journey is going to go.
There was no disrespect to Wolfram Alpha or anything like that.
No,
like, that's incredibly cool what
they have some cool features and cool technology.
But there was certainly people claiming all kinds of crazy things when Wolfram Alpha was coming out.
Yeah, Wolfram Alpha that was it. Oh, Google's over.
Like, Google's over, right?
That's pack it in, Google.
Right. So.
Yeah, but remember the Jimmy Wales on the cover of Fast Company,
yes.
Google's worst nightmare?
Yes.
Really? How's that Google stock doing?
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, I think this only comes from watching this. And Mahalo's an interesting case in this, because anything that comes up in search or in Q&A, and, you know, now Core is out, and all, I mean, you hear every 3 months, it seems, you know, someone's our path to the your journey. So you just
eyes on the prize, focus on your product, and you'll do just fine. Thanks for calling in. Hey, where are you guys going to be in February on the 23rd and 24th?
I actually bought a ticket for the launch conference.
You did? What about your friend over there?
I won't be able to attend, I'm afraid. I'd like to, but...
Really?
You should.
Okay. Well, you bought a ticket already, so... How about we give you a tabletop and you can show your product to the other people coming? We'll give you an extra ticket to bring somebody.
That would be wonderful. I'd really
Okay, all right.
appreciate
So get in touch with producer Rob, and we'll give you a tabletop, and we'll give you 2 extra tickets because you need 3 people to man the booth. And you show what you're doing there. You get some new product, raise some new features, and show it, and maybe raise some angel money. Sound good?
it. Thank you very much.
So look forward to seeing you there, and thanks for being on the program. Let's bring in Kathy for the news. Gray. All right, Kathy's here with the news. Let's hear the first news story.
Well, Google mobile searches grew 130% year over year in Q3 of 2010. Now, web-based search ads showcase seller ratings for businesses similar to the mobile format that allows advertisers to include a rating for a business. So if you're looking to buy something, the seller that results in the Google search will also have a rating if it is a 4 or 5 star. If it's less than a 4 or 5 star, they're not showing it. Google's market share is estimated in mobile search at 98.29% back in July. Does a competitor have a chance in the mobile search marketplace?
They have 98% of the ads or 98%
Mobile
of the
search.
searches?
Of the searches.
That's amazing.
Now, that was back in July. So,
Wow.
But given that, does a competitor have a chance in the mobile search marketplace?
It shows why doing Android was so brilliant, though.
Well, Android was absolutely necessary because when Steve Jobs started coming out and saying, hey, there's an app for that, you're not going to go to a search engine, you're going to start at an app, he was right, and he woke the sleeping giant. Sort of a mistake. And then actually, you remember there was some talk of the default going to Microsoft and Microsoft buying out the search spot, which is ironic considering the dogfight that Apple and Microsoft have been in and continue to be in for desktop supremacy and operating system supremacy. So now you have this sort of strange bedfellows thing where you had Apple. It's basically turned into a love triangle. You had Apple and Microsoft at each other's throats, and then you insert Google. And now Google and Apple, they loved each other. It's like, oh, look at Google Maps. Like, Steve Jobs couldn't do enough about it. This is the best integration of Google Maps. Remember when the iPhone came out? Now he's like, oh my God, Google, we have to kill that. And he's so much so that he would actually consider putting Bing as the default search engine and letting them buy it out because he sees Google as more of a competitive threat. So I don't think it's really about defaults. And so Bing, I'm sure, has a good search product. If they can get the default on Nokia phones or RIM or with the carriers, because the carriers get to set the default as well. People forget that. So if all of a sudden Verizon and T-Mobile, even with Android, decide to set the default as Bing, that's their choice. I mean, that's how crazy Google is. If I was running Google, I'd be like, what? If you want to use our operating system, we're the default, period. I would be, if it was me as CEO, I'd be like, and by the way, we're blocking any searches to Bing. Like, I mean, that would be seriously anti-competitive. You couldn't do it, but that would be part of my thing. Like, hey, either you pay for Android or Android free if, with, Google, and Android very expensive with Bing. And that's exactly what got Microsoft into trouble with the Justice Department. Was Microsoft was like, you have to, Dell, you have to put these things on the desktop, or you don't have to, we'll just charge you a little bit more than everybody else for the operating system. And that's when they got all their fines. So, I don't, it's all a matter of, who the iPhone defaults to will determine probably 10 points of share, 20 points of share maybe. Because iPhone users, actually it might even be more. I mean, because iPhone users search so much more often. But then again, with AT&T's network sucking so bad, maybe it's that much less. So actually, maybe Verizon is the important one. I guess it depends on speed.
Well, Verizon is the most wireless customers in the country.
Yeah, so I mean, I think that's why these guys are all locking down deals. And Google's got all those deals locked down. And Google monetizes at a higher rate. So that's the other thing. Google can make a deal with Verizon that is profitable for them, but the same deal would not be profitable for Bing, because Bing and the Microsoft network of text ads and mobile ads is not as tight and as high paying as Google's. It's not as robust. So even if, God forbid, Google tries to lose money on every search or just break even, then nobody has any chance of doing it. And that's another antitrust thing when you do anti-competitive pricing, where you do pricing below what it costs you, but they don't even have to get to that point. They can just do pricing that makes them a very modest profit. And that basically makes it impossible for anybody to compete with them. This is like the soft monopoly they have. It's not like they just force people, it's that they have economic room to breathe. Next story.
Richard Stallman, you guys know this guy?
Sure.
An American software
Free
freedom
software.
activist
Yep.
and computer programmer and founder of the GNU project, spoke out against the Chrome operating system, stating the cloud computing is dangerous because it places your data in the hands of companies that neither care about you or your data. What does cloud computing have to do with the erosion of privacy?
Well, I think the problem with cloud computing is the cloud has to be owned by somebody. So the internet is not owned by anybody, right? It exists in this virtual space. So, you can own servers, you can own a leg of the internet, but you can't own all of it. Well, when it comes to actual cloud services, and if the whole industry moves to cloud services, wherever that data is stored, that person has some level of control over you. We saw it with WikiLeaks, when WikiLeaks got kicked off of Amazon's cloud services. And Amazon says, hey, it's because it's stolen documents or whatever. But you can take a hard drive in a computer and put anything you want on it. But if you put that hard drive in the cloud, now you are beholden to whoever owns that. What this means is there's an opportunity for services to come up around the world on a global basis that are clouds, that are secure and anonymous. And why these don't exist already, I mean, this is a great business idea. If somebody wants to make an incredible startup right now, they should make an offshore, off the United States, in whatever the most liberal place is, encrypted and anonymous storage facility for data, cloud storage and cloud and running stuff that nobody can screw with. And if it's, whether it's gambling or, whatever, or just freedom of speech and other documents that people might find offensive, depending on your definition, that would be a really interesting business to own. But I don't know how much it's, the privacy issue is more that it can be hacked. Or it can be hacked easier than maybe the things in your house. But even that's not true. That's just a perception. And the fact is that the person who's running Evernote, there is a chance that the person, I don't think everything on there is hugely encrypted. So people could peek in. And my experience with developers is, not all developers, but there's a contingent of developers who have superpowers. And let's just say anybody who has superpowers, if you have X-ray vision, or you can jump over buildings, or you can fly, you're going to use it once in a while. And these guys use it. I mean, it's just like the people at the DMV were looking up, or the people at the IRS were looking up celebrities' tax results. People who do passport control were looking up celebrities' passport, which is what stupid people do when they're bored. They're at a terminal, like, hey, check it out. Let's look up Mel Gibson's IRS tax form. Check this out. Look what he deducted. So any information that can be hacked will be hacked. But cloud computing does change the dynamic. Tyler, any thoughts?
Certainly, the whole WikiLeaks issue has that feeling of Napster all over again, where it's inevitable now that they're going to. 5 other people are going to kick open things, and it's open this whole can of worms. And
WikiLeaks may actually result, I think it will result, or could possibly result in a technology, a distributed cloud technology. And a distributed cloud technology that was resistant to any one operator shutting it down would be a pretty amazing thing. So imagine you could put WikiLeaks out to 10 clouds. And if any, 3 or 4 of them say, you know what, we don't want this content, the other ones would still be running and it would be synced between the clouds. Something like that would be kind of interesting. Or if those clouds were actually end users' machines and it was distributing over a peer network, again, it gets very interesting. Just like there's a thing called the Tor network, TOR, you can look it up, and it does anonymous surfing through other people's machines. So you could surf the web through my machine, and then it's encrypted. So you would go through me, and then I would send you to somebody who I don't know, which maybe Tyler, because he's running the Tor client, and your searches for something inappropriate by whoever's standard would go out of Tyler's machine. He wouldn't even know that. They would come back to me. It would strip all his IP information. I would give you the encrypted result. I don't know what's in it, so I can't be blamed. Right. And then you get the result. The problem is it's really slow. So I actually thought about making a commercial version of Tor. I was like, wow, with all this stuff going on. And I've got a phone call with somebody who's a hacker to talk about it. It's interesting stuff. It really is going to, I think there's going to be a market for people who will pay not only $100 a month for their fiber line or $50, but will pay $50 to know that everything they do on the internet is secure.
Absolutely.
And, private.
Well, the question is it's always about personally identifiable information, right? As all these networks that have tons of data about where you're going and what you search and the different pages that you've seen, they all claim, well, we don't know what your personally identifiable data is. Is that really true? I mean,
it's not. I mean, Zuckerberg straight up lied on 60 Minutes. He's like, we don't sell, users' information. And I was like, well, that's funny, because when I went in there, I was able to, in your ad system, buy women in Florida between the ages of 19 and 25 who have Guitar Hero 2 as their favorite and serve them an ad for Guitar Hero 2 on Mahalo. So I think that's selling their interests.
Right.
I mean, I think what he meant, and probably the way he responded is, well, we don't sell individuals. We don't sell Kathy Choi's or Tyler Crowley's. But you do sell individuals. And then once I've got you to click on that link and I cookie you, then I find out who you are, and then it's game over. I know that you're a woman between this age, or at least according to your Facebook profile. And that's what people are doing. They're basically running ads against these networks, boom, and if you have that like button on your site, now everybody who comes to Engadget and clicks like the story or TechCrunch and likes the story or whatever, then they know, oh, that's a TechCrunch reader, oh, that's an Engadget reader, we can sell ads against them, and guess what Engadget gets? Donut.
Right. My Twitter account was hacked into this weekend, and I think it's because Gawker got hacked into, because I signed into Gawker once.
Don't ever use the same passwords.
You know, but how do you keep track of everything? And honestly, let's be real. Most people use the same 3 or 5 passwords.
I'll tell you what I did.
The 25 different sites.
The first time they didn't have comments originally on Gawker. I think they didn't believe in them, and then we started kicking his ass with Engadget and some of the other things we did, and then he all of a sudden got religion because he saw how we were beating him because of engagement. And so when I signed up for Gawker years and years ago, I just use whatever the default password is, and that's my secret. I don't use my password. I use whatever the system gives me,
I see.
and then I'll look it up in my Gmail, and then have one really ultra secure, password on my Gmail. That's got characters and numbers and exclamation points and all kinds of other shit in it.
Somebody left Google, an engineer left Google to start Facebook Disconnect.
Yeah, it's an extension that lets you, anytime you go to a web page and it has all that Facebook garbage, it basically neuters it before it loads.
But he
left Google and he's going to work on it full time.
Right, and I think he said something very kind of clever when they were asking him, why are you leaving Google to do this? That,
can't be done in Google.
Right. Well, 2011 is sort of, we're getting to that point in the curve where privacy is becoming the issue.
People wondered when it would be in the consciousness of the public.
Right.
It is.
Right.
And you know who put it there? Facebook.
Zuckerberg. Yeah.
Zucker. I mean, I said that if you F with users long enough, you will make them aware of this, and then you will get the press, and you'll get the senators, and and everybody will be on this. And guess what's happening? Rapleaf and them, the two of them have now inspired all of this investigative journalism.
But
and who's it going? Who's getting hit by it? Everybody in the industry is going to have to suffer because of this.
It's I don't think coincidental that a lot of the technology is also leading towards local at this point, between Groupon and everything else, where things are getting so localized that the privacy is now becoming a sort of an issue because you're being marketed to so accurately. And
well, geo-targeting is, people know geo-targeting.
Yeah,
people
the
know
combination of
getting
and
everybody's zip code. I
Yeah.
mean, how many times do you ask to put your zip code in, you actually put it in because it makes your service better, what I suggest everybody do is everybody just sign up for every service as a 13-year-old girl with a Japanese name and be interested in fly fishing. And then we'll screw up the entire, every demographic report, will be like, wow, this site really has a lot of young teenage girls with Japanese names who fly fish. And I guess we can't sell them iPods, we'll just screw up the demographics of everything. If everybody just did that one thing. And then everybody put in the zip code for Tokyo. Or something, because I've done that before when I'm signing up for a service that I don't want them to know it's me because I'm looking at it, maybe it's an investment or whatever. I'm just like, my name is Miyoshi and, I'm 13 to 17 years old and, whatever. Okay, last story.
Twitter announces the top 10 most powerful tweets of the year. Let me give you a few examples. Reporter Ann Kerr used it to convince the USA Air Force to allow planes with Doctors Without Borders to land in Haiti. Lee Fazina saved her own life by tweeting for help when she got stuck in a bike crash in the woods of Connecticut. And Jonathan Schwartz, this is my favorite, the ex-CEO of Sun Microsystems, left with a simple haiku message. Financial crisis, stalled too many customers, CEO no more. What was your most powerful tweet this year?
Oh my goodness, I have to think about that.
I know what his most powerful tweet was.
You do?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, Tyler's going to pull it up for us.
I don't even know. Most powerful in terms of retweetability or the impact. I think it might have been a Rickroll I did recently for WikiLeaks, where I did the WikiLeaks Rickroll. That was pretty good. But if you were in a bike crash and you could use Twitter, that means you have an IP connection. Couldn't you also just dial 911?
Well, apparently she wasn't getting any cell reception there.
Ah, so she had data but not cell.
Yes,
okay,
that's right.
All right, fair enough. It's good that they actually thought about that. So what was my biggest tweet? I don't even know.
The you with that handbag, where I have to pull it up.
Was when I tweeted when I took the picture of Starbucks with the handbag?
Yes.
That's a pretty great picture.
Yeah.
When I just said, hey, and inspired you to get a man bag. Man bag sales went up 13% for that tweet, so that's absolutely my biggest. Thank you to Kathy Choi for reading the news. Thank you to .co, don't you know? Go create your own opportunity at .co. They've been great supporters, and thank you to SendGrid. They deliver those transactional emails that are essential to your startup company. And we'll see you next time on This Week. Oh, wait, question of the week. Oh, this is Rob's contribution to the show. Here we go. Rob would like to know, this is the question of the week. We did a graphic for this. I'm going to have Ryan make like a really important graphic. What was your most important tweet of 2010? Put that on thisweekin.com/startups when you see episode 101, which will be up probably in 6 hours. We'll see you next time on This Week in Startups.
Go out on this right now.
That's what it's all about, man. Hey, Sid, money is the root of all evil. What? Funny how it feeds my people. Yeah. We ain't gonna live like equals until we get the money, spend the money, and defeat you. Yeah. Money is the root of all evil. What? Funny how it feeds my people. Yeah. We ain't gonna live like equals until we get the money, spend the money, and defeat you.